right, down to the last 60 minutes of this Thursday edition of Breakfast Television. So glad to have you along for the ride. It's time for us to take a look at the stories that are leading the headlines at this hour. And a Southside home is in ruins after fire ripped through it last night. But despite the devastation you're about to see, crews say it could have been much worse. Firefighters greeted by flames bursting through the roof when they arrived at the home just before 8:30 last night. The call was quickly upgraded to a second alarm blaze as flames were threatening a neighboring home.
And given what was going on at the time of our response, these guys did an incredible job. You know, A, containing it to the building of origin, and B, the stream of people that was walking down the street here was just chaotic. So they did a great job on all fronts.
One woman inside the home at the time managed to escape safely. No word yet on what might have sparked the fire. Construction site safety standards are being scrutinized. This after a worker died after being accidentally buried Tuesday. A 55-year-old man died when a trench collapsed on him at an infill work site in Westmount. Occupational Health and Safety has launched a fatality inquiry, but those who passed by the site say the tragedy doesn't come as a complete surprise.
My boss and I were looking at that site going, something bad's going to happen here, because they sent this poor guy into an unbuttressed trench, no hard hat, no gloves.
When my guys are boarding, they're never alone. Never leave your guys alone. Even when they're taping, you know, there should be two guys taping. And just never leave your guys alone.
OHS says the victim was working for the Bissell Center Temporary Labor Agency. Bissell claims that it did not place any workers at the site. Meanwhile, a city employee buried under a load of gravel last Wednesday has died. The 37-year-old man was inspecting a malfunctioning gate on a dump truck. That's when it opened up, burying him underneath the gravel. He was rushed to hospital, where he died yesterday. OHS is now investigating. A former boyfriend of a slain Edmonton nurse has been found guilty in her death. Devin Saunders convicted of first-degree murder Wednesday. Court determined that he shot Chanel Pierre in the back of the head in March 2008 before lighting her body and car on fire. Police discovered the charge remains a short time later. The conviction is a day that Pierre's family has spent more than 7 years waiting for.
Justice has been served. Let me just say, I have a God that never fails. I never once gave up hope.
A lot of evidence was destroyed because of the fire. We had to approach things differently. We had to be open-minded about how things came together, and just tenacious and diligent towards working towards a good resolution in this and not giving up.
Saunders was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years. Well, to politics now. The Orange Crush continues to gain momentum with just 5 days until voting day. A new Ecos poll has the NDP at nearly 40% support. Tories and Wildrose tied with 23. ROI and Léger polls this morning also put the NDP well at front with 38% support. That includes enormous support in Edmonton, with more than half of city-decided voters leaning NDP. It's a figure that PC leader Jim Prentice is shrugging off.
Any party I lead will never walk away from Edmonton, and you know we're going to continue to campaign. We've got great candidates, you know, people like Stephen Mandel and Chris Labossiere and Tom Bradley and Catherine O'Neill, and I mean great candidates in Edmonton. I'm headed up there this afternoon, as a matter of fact, and you know it's a great dynamic city with a positive future, and you know our party certainly wants to be part of that and want to be partners in building Edmonton as a great city.
Now that pledge follows Don Iverson's State of the City address earlier this week, where he said Edmonton would never be overlooked by the province again, no matter who wins next Tuesday's election. Prentice and his main opponents for the Premier's chair spending their Wednesday in Calgary. Wildrose leader Brian Jean pledging to finish the west leg of the Calgary Ring Road. He says the Tories' budget delays have put that project behind by 10 years. Jean also vowed to boost direct municipal funding and to fast-track priority capital projects.
Schools and roads and health facilities that we've heard loud and clear are so important to Albertans. We will get the schools built, and we will get them built early and on time, as we promise.
Meanwhile, NDP leader Rachel Notley making her pitch to Calgarians, a city which could very well decide who forms government.
And I think that the people of Calgary are tired of being taken for granted by the PC party. And I think the people of Calgary, like more and more Albertans, are ready for new leadership.
As for Prentice, he spent Wednesday touting his plan for Alberta businesses. Also, it's pretty cool. The Tour of Alberta is set to reach new heights this year. For the first time, the cycling competition heads to the mountains. Stage 3 will take its way into Jasper National Park, with cyclists powering through Jasper on day 4.
A couple of years ago, I went to Tour of California, and they had a mountain finish in Palm Springs, and it was crazy hard, and guys were collapsing at the finish line and those kinds of things. So we haven't had that yet, and not that we want collapses at the finish, but we want that toughness, and we're looking forward to having a well-diverse race.
Super cool. Another change for this year's Tour of Alberta will be the addition of a team time trial. A big cycling extravaganza gets underway September 2nd, running through to September 7th.